This is Kits and Wagers. I'm Adam Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen to talk Game Week 27 in the Premier League. Sorry we didn't have our show last week. Chris had to battle some snowstorms out on the West Coast, and we had to get him home safe. So we didn't have our show live, but we still had the article. I had a positive article up last week. You'd be proud of me, Chris. I had 2 race to 5. Actually, I had a couple corner bets that hit. It was a good weekend of race to 5 corner bets. So I don't have one this week, unfortunately. But Chris, happy Friday. Welcome to Kits and Wagers here.
Thanks, Adam. Good to be back. Sorry we missed the show last week. Happy to, we got a full slate again here this weekend. Last weekend was a bit of a heavy Saturday, and then the one game and the Sunday League Cup. But yeah, good to be back. You would have been. I don't know if you would have been proud, but I had a race to. The City game had a race to 9 corners, which was pretty decent odds. Which I obviously put a bet on, missed it. It was 8. They had 8 corners, and it's not how I wanted things to go. But needless to say, I was out there smashing some corner bets and doing my best.
That was that Bournemouth game. Brutal.
Yeah, just missed it. So
yeah, it was like 1-0 that game.
Yeah, I got to remember. I forgot what it was, but it was like plus 165, maybe a little bit better. I don't know, but I was gutted to lose that one.
You put on some future bets, didn't you, while you're out there?
Oh, definitely put some future bets out there. So I was out skiing for a week, and sometimes you have a couple beers after a nice day of skiing, and may have gotten maybe one too many beers, and put down a Liverpool futures bets future bet on the Premier League. It was plus 185. I don't know. It's plus 175. Looks like. You can kind of get it all over. It's 200 now, kind of all over.
Yeah, 230 at FanDuel.
Yeah, I was on DraftKings. It was plus 185 last week. I don't know why it's gone. Maybe it's because City won later in the weekend. But toss that one out there. Tossed a Packers Super Bowl bet out there as well last weekend. That one was more for fun, and I don't It was like plus 2,200. So, it'd be crazy, but it'd be cool too. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Game week 27. We got a race here. We got finally a real race. Last season it was sort of a real race. I'm not sure when it exactly ended for Arsenal. It was probably the final month of the season that it actually fully ended.
What, April 1st? I think that Arsenal City game was, I thought.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was right around early April, I thought.
It was a little later, but right now, as you can see here, the best odds from the sports books we covered, plus 110 for Manchester City, plus 230 for Liverpool, and Arsenal are plus 320. So 3 teams going to be fighting it out for. Hopefully it's going to be, maybe we can get the final match day. We need, 3 points. All these teams need 3 points or something like that. That would be a fun way to end the season. But as I mentioned, I did another article, found some time this week, got a Game Week 27 article. So there's a few more bets. Looks like we got a Brentford bet in there with Ivan Toney. So shouts to Tony. But we're talking a few different matches. Of course, we're going to be getting to the Manchester Derby. We have a couple more Saturday morning. Yes. I guess the Aston Villa Luton Town game is a little later. But the first one we got, Fulham are home against Brighton. And look at this. It's basically even odds here. DraftKings is telling us pick them. I saw plus 165 at DraftKings. So it's going to be, depending on the site, plus 160, 165 for both Fulham and Brighton to win. So this is pretty much as even as it gets. And then you also have the draw at plus 260. Something you just don't really see in soccer. But I'm sure it'll change at some point. But over 2.5 goals is minus 160. Under 2.5 goals is plus 130. There's not really any massive injury news for Fulham. I'm probably going to run out the same squad as they did last week unless Tom Kearney starts. Not really the same situation for Brighton. We know Miedema is out. Billy Gilmore suspended. They rotated a bit midweek, lost 1-0 at Wolverhampton. Questions on the availability to start, I guess, would be on Lamptey, Ferguson, and Veltman. we'll see how that works out. Ansu Fati started midweek. He did not impress Roberto De Zerbi from what I saw. So there is a question of there's another question of who's going to start in Billy Gilmore's place, because Cameron Popian started on the wing in that game, and their lineup looked a little different. Jakob Motor also started. I actually have him in our projected lineup, but we'll see what happens. So some rotation for Brighton, not as much rotation for Fulham. Fulham at home. How do you think this match goes?
Yeah, definitely. You noted all the injuries that Brighton have. Definitely a huge absence to be missing Miedema for the rest of the season. It sounds like, I mean, he was gone at Asian Cup for quite a while, and then he comes back, plays a couple games, and now is out for the season. So, I mean, he was what we had kind of expected for the end of the season to be there, maybe one of their best players, if not their best player, behind maybe Gross or March. But regardless, this should be an interesting game. This feels, the odds are also even. I think Fulham, you mentioned plus 160, Brighton plus 165, the draw being plus 260. Like, it's razor's edge here. It could go anywhere. I don't feel strongly about either team really winning this game. My initial thought was like, okay, are we going to see a ton of goals out of both these teams? But you look back at some of the historical data, kind of like what's going on with Fulham at home, what's going on with Brighton away from home. And I ended up on, I believe I have both teams to score, let's see, plus 155.
Yes.
And so for the 5 past meetings here, have been under 2.5. You look back at a couple of the other results too, and it just seems to me that I don't know that it might be like a shutout, a goal to a shutout here. So I think I don't really necessarily want to pick a team, but I don't think that we're going to see a ton of goals. You can also get the under 2.5 at plus 130 if you're like, okay, Chris, it might be a 1-1 draw. I feel like it might be like a goal to shutout. So that's where I'm at for this one.
I actually was on the under 2.5 goals, and then I looked at it this morning, and I didn't want this to end in a 2-1 result kind of a thing. Kind of what happened with Fulham and Manchester United last weekend, where Fulham got the lead. I think that's how it went. They got the lead. Yep. Manchester United equalized. Then they got the late winner. I just didn't want something like that to happen. Also, something similar happened to Brighton when they're at Tottenham. So I did have under 2.5 goals, and then I was like, I kind of like Fulham here at home with Alex Iwobi back. So let's just do a single game parlay, Fulham double chance with under 3.5 goals, so a little safer than that 2.5 goals. And it's actually slightly better odds here, plus 135 on that bet. So not the same as Chris's, but both of ours could hit if it's, Fulham 1-0 or something like that, though. What was the stat we saw recently where Brighton scored in like 30 straight matches or something like that? I know their scoring record hasn't been as good lately. And I guess they were just held scoreless at Wolverhampton midweek. But
yeah.
do you believe in this Fulham back line here with whoever's going to start? Looks like Calvin Bassey probably going to start and Tosin back there. But
yeah, I mean, they've been definitely I don't love Calvin Bassey. I feel like every game I watch, there's some sort of weird mistake going on.
I will say that was a thing earlier in the season. Whenever he was in, I was like, I'm betting the over. I'm betting the other team. It seems like he's won a job now. Like, he's starting over Tim Ream. Yeah. He's also getting started over Issa Diop. So it seems like something turned around after the African Cup of Nations, and it seems like he's won that job. But we'll see if he's back in there again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, Fulham's got some pretty good outside backs too. Like, Anthony Robinson is probably sounds like he's due for a move here in the summer. He's been really strong for Fulham throughout the season. So yeah, I mean, they have good outside backs. It's a question mark there. I mean, Brighton kind of dealing with some injuries here. I think Fulham. I'm not picking a team, as I mentioned, but I feel like they have a good, strong defensive setup enough to potentially keep Brighton out of the net.
Brighton's scoring just really hasn't been there in recent games. So they had that Wolverhampton game. They're down 1-0 against Everton. That was the game Billy Gilmore got sent off. They ended up getting that late equalizer, but also that game at Tottenham where it was 1-1 and then Tottenham got the late winner. I'm ignoring the Sheffield United result when Mason Holgate got the red, and it was a quick 5 goals for them. But I'm ignoring that one. But I do kind of like this to be whether it's know both teams to score or it's lower scoring, either way is what I'll say. So next game we have Luton Town, our home. Luton Town off their 6-2 loss against Manchester City. They gave up 5 goals against Erling Haaland midweek. Not great, but they're going for it. Luton Town are plus 330 to win at home. Aston Villa are minus 140. The draw is plus 340, and then over, it's going to be 3.5 goals is plus 110. Under 3.5 goals is minus 135. The big news here is we have a lot of defensive injuries, and defensive injuries, does that mean goals? Maybe it might. As we look at the line movement here, let's see. This was a couple weeks ago. Aston Villa went from minus 115 to minus 140. So the money is going towards Aston Villa, maybe partly because Luton Town have some injuries. Adebayo is still out. We just got done doing the Luton Town the injury report here, and so we have questions on their back line. We don't actually know if Amari Bell, who went off midweek against Manchester City with some slight hamstring issue, if he's not ready to start, they may have to start someone who isn't a center back in one of the center back roles, because basically all of their backups are out. We know Tom Lockyer's out. Osho is also a new absence who's added to the injury report. They have, I think, 5 center backs out in addition to Lakanga, their defensive midfielder. Jordan Clark started in the midfield against Manchester City midweek. Again, that's when they allowed 6 goals. So there are questions, and I already mentioned Adebayo, and then we get to Aston Villa. At this point in the season, I'm just reading off injuries for each of these teams, it seems like. But Pau Torres went down with a slight hamstring issue last weekend, and then Ezri Konsa is coming back from his knee injury, but Emery basically said, not sure if either one of these guys can start. So we could see Arsenal legend Callum Chambers in at center back for Aston Villa, because all their other center backs are injured. So a lot of injured center backs. Does that mean goals between Aston Villa and Luton Town? Even if some of these guys start, does it even matter who's in at center back, I guess is the question.
This is like you just set me up for an all-time tap in here. So thanks for that, Adam. Yeah, all the injuries. I mean, even without the injuries, I still feel like I would take this bet. But Luton are just conceding goals at an absolutely rampant pace. They're scoring goals at a rampant pace too. Aston Villa, no slouches, scoring goals as well. This one feels like this might be my stamp of approval for the week of the bet that I like the most. But I got over 3.5 goals at plus 115. I was even tempted to hit this might be a bridge too far, but the over 4.5 is at plus 255. They might play somebody random at center back. They are a team that gives up a ton of goals. They're also an incredibly exciting team to watch. I think they can themselves score goals. I think there's going to be quite a few goals in this game. I'm all over the over 3.5. I also looked at Aston Villa. You can get them at over 2.5 goals at plus 160. I think this might be like 3-0. It might be 3-2. It's, it could be, it could be a lot of goals here. So I feel pretty strongly about this one. You look at the injury report, you look at everything that's contributing here, and feels like you got to just smash this over.
I was considering it. I had a different bet again going in. I put all my bets down. I think this is Wednesday. I put all my bets in the graphic. Then I looked at it this morning. This is one where I was considering the over 3.5, and I was like, you know what, Chris is probably going to give this, so I'll just keep my other bet. It's just a number that you can't go the other way. You can't bet. I mean, you can bet, but it'd feel wrong if you're betting the under in this game.
Yeah, silly.
I took a bet in it was last week against Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest. I took a bet. I think it was Aston Villa money line over 2.5 goals. Aston Villa money line, both teams to score. I kind of think something similar is going to happen here, where Aston Villa, they have these defensive injuries. I didn't even mention the absence of Boubacar Kamara, who, their defensive enforcer is basically out for the rest of the season. Still not sure they've figured that out without him, but that last week's game was 4-2. The question will be Luton Town at home, I guess. I think they'll show enough fight, is what I'll say. And instead of going with over goal route, I'm going over corners route, which we got to have a corners bet in the show. It's only minus 120, but I got over 10.5 goals, minus 120. a lot of these Luton Town games seem to have corners because they love to rack up corners. They love to send in crosses, and they're not afraid to attack. And I think we basically have top defensive midfielders out for both teams, top center backs out for both teams. You got to think this will be back and forth a decent amount with defensive lapses kind of a thing. I think both teams, if you want to go like, I don't know what the odds would be, both teams over 4.5 corners, maybe you could get better odds there. This one's a little safer. Over 10.5 corners is -120. But either way, I think we're looking back and forth. I'll say, I don't know if I want to say another 4-2 result, but we could say another 4-2 result. 4-2. You think Aston Villa score 3 or 4 goals at Luton Town here?
Like I said, I like the Aston Villa over 2.5. So yeah, I like 3 goals, so maybe 2 goals. Then you could also smash that over 4.5 that I mentioned. That's +255.
Yeah, Luton Town. The only worry is Luton Town has been starting this Cauley Woodrow guy, who I don't know if he's going to start again, but he's like he's like 28, 29, hasn't really seen a ton of time in the top division. He's been starting since Adebayo went down, and I moved him out of our projected starting 11 because I don't think he should be starting, but maybe Edwards feels otherwise as they try and look for a change. Either way, but Jordan Clark, Ross Barkley has been playing really solid.
Yeah,
we got the Manchester Derby coming up here. This is the game that everyone comes for. This is what everyone cares about. So we got to get to it. Manchester City, our home standalone Sunday match against Manchester United. We got a nice little appetizer before that. If you're looking on our odds page over at RotoWire, Burnley are at home against Bournemouth. That's
one we're all we can't miss that one.
Gotta wake up for that one. A lot of exciting things going on at Burnley.
Yeah. A lot of good things. Notably about that one, Bournemouth away favorites.
+100. How
often do we see that?
Yeah, not too often. Not too often. We got I think Manchester City are one of the bigger favorites this weekend, but they're home for this one. It's at the Etihad. -370 to win. This has gone up a little bit. Let's see. This is February 21st, so about 10 days ago. They were -275. It went to -400 at a point. Now it's -370. Manchester United, they were +600 at one point. Now they're +900 to win. The draw is +550 to win. Not a ton of love for United. Over 3.5 goals, +100. Under 3.5 goals, -125. So Erik ten Hag here. First off, there's not a ton of new injuries. We know Højlund's out. We know Luke Shaw is out. I don't think there's anything new outside of we'll see who starts at left back. Amrabat started at left back midweek. Probably going to be him again, but no guarantees on what that back line looks like for Manchester United. Grealish is out for Manchester City otherwise. So Erik ten Hag has just had an interesting past couple of weeks. I'm sure you saw the quote of him like complaining about Fulham's TikTok and
that was hilarious. The TikTok was amazing. Like, and his quote made him sound even more salty about it. Like that was ridiculous.
After the Fulham game, he also had a fun quote of what he was like, I believe we're on the right track. We played well. Things are looking good. And this was after they lost at Fulham. So just a lot of, I don't know, a lot of things. The media circling Manchester United is on another level, and so much that Marcus Rashford came out with a video and like a written piece for the Players Tribune explaining that everything is good. He loves Manchester City because so many things are coming out about him being like upset with Ten Hag and him hating Ten Hag. It's been, I don't know, it just seems like it's kind of ramping up. No matter what happens with Manchester United, the pressure and the weird quotes from Ten Hag are just ramping up by the week. And now we got the Manchester Derby here.
This is absolutely amazing for like a fan of another team, because you mentioned the TikTok that Fulham put out. Like it was, maybe not the best taste, but it was hilarious too. Like Bruno,
right? Like
Bruno, flopping down, like might have died because his ankle had fallen off, and then like United are playing around the box. He's at the top of the box, and he gets back up within about 10 seconds. Is like looking for the pass at the top of the box to take a shot, and I think the caption was like "he's okay" or some shit like that, or something like that. But It was hilarious. And then, Ten Hag is like all salty about it. But meanwhile, he put out a team against Fulham and they lost in the stoppage time in the second half that they were listless. They looked terrible. They like no part of that team looked like they were going to win that game. It was, just a terrible performance from them. And that's after they had, I think, won 4 in a row where they looked pretty good. Injuries have obviously hit them pretty hard. But there's probably no manager in the Premier League right now on a hotter seat than Ten Hag right now, I would say. They got a new CEO in Barrera, I think, the guy from City. They are hiring Dan Ashworth as like the sporting director from Newcastle. There's going to be, they got Jim Ratcliffe has, a quarter of the club now. There's going to be some changes and, good chance that he is no longer there at the end of the season and perhaps before if things go any further south. But this one, the last couple seasons, the Manchester Derby has maybe not last decade, perhaps, has been complete, domination by City. I think that's what we're going to see again this week. You're not really getting good odds on any of the money line stuff. I will say the last time that, and this goes more for City than anything, but the last time that City lost a Premier League match at home was to Brentford, and that was back in November of 2022. So it's been over a year since they've lost at home. I will say they've drawn at home 4 of their past 10 games, so it's not like they're not dropping points there. But that being said, is there any part of you that thinks Manchester United can take points here? They're going to start Anthony up top.
They started Amari Forson last week, and I don't know if you saw. They started like the 18-year-old, who he wasn't the answer. Is what I'll say.
They started Forson over. Was it Rashford or somebody?
Well, they started him over Anthony. Anthony started midweek then, and I'm not sure Anthony's the answer either. But
no, there was like a. The internet is always undefeated, but there was like a Jadon Dan scored 2 goals in an FA Cup for Liverpool, and it was like has more goals than 80 million pound Anthony this season. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's brutal. It hasn't been the greatest of seasons for Anthony, who had a lot of spark early last year, throughout last year, and then kind of has really faded this season. Garnacho kind of took a roll on, and that basically removed Anthony from even consideration in the starting 11, even without Jadon Sancho in the team. So it hasn't been great, but I think you look at it, you look at that Manchester United game at Liverpool, and it just seems like Ten Hag's gonna do the same exact thing. Let's just sit behind the ball. Let's try and get a scoreless draw here. Let's try and exit with a point. Do you think that is the route here, or does he want to go up and down? Does he want to get Rashford on the wing, going against Kyle Walker, who has been known to? I'm sure Rashford has scored in the past against Manchester City. I'm pretty sure he has. But Kyle Walker has had a couple instances where he's up against these speedy wingers. They cut inside against him. They curl one in. I can definitely see that happening, but I don't know. This Manchester United team, who I keep seeing tweets about, they're allowing as many shots as like Sheffield United, basically, or maybe not that much, but it's up there. They're like a bottom 5 table team in terms of how many shots they're allowed, and it's because of how they play. But they're probably not going to play that way in this game. They're probably going to sit back. So, do you think it's going to be high scoring or low scoring?
I think it's going to be low scoring. But like you go back to how United set up against Liverpool. They basically sat like 9 behind the ball and kind of had one sit high a little bit and played for that draw, and like they got the point. So good for them. Even looking at how City's played recently, it's not like City are scoring a ton of goals in the league. They're kind of just inching out 1-0 wins. Very workmanlike, very, very like, let's go grab 3 points, and it's working for them. So I don't see that changing. It was interesting to see De Bruyne and Haaland start in the midweek FA Cup match. Of course, they smoked Luton Town 6-2. Haaland had 5 goals. De Bruyne had 4 assists. But I thought that was an interesting choice, given that they were ready to could overpower Luton Town no problem with a much lesser lineup. But yeah, for me here. I don't think that it'll be any problem for City to win this game. I didn't necessarily think the odds were good enough on over goals, or I think it could be like a 1-0 or a 2-0 game. I think that United, you mentioned that we're missing a couple guys up front. We're going to see Rashford, Antony, and probably Garnacho start. I think they might struggle to score goals. So I initially looked at Manchester City under 2.5 goals. It's -110. They're not scoring a lot of goals, but I'm going to get a little individual on this one. Phil Foden's been pretty electric this season. He's got 9 goals and 7 assists for City just in the Premier League alone. And I thought about him at a anytime goal at +170. I don't love that. I've switched over to Phil Foden, 2 or more shots on goal. It's +130. In his last 10 games, he's got 18 shots on goal. And even I think in the last 4 games, he's got a lot of those came in the last 4 games as well. I think he had like 3 shots on goal last game and maybe 4 the game before. So he's getting a ton of opportunities. I expect to see him in the starting 11 here again. It looks like we have him out. Oh, no, we got him in as well. But yeah, just a very individual bet, which isn't usually my favorite considering Pep Roulette. But I think he starts, and I think that it should be no problem for him to get two shots or more at a +130.
No problem. Yeah, some of these Manchester City games have been low scoring. They have been struggling to score, but they are racking up opportunities. So is this going to be a game where Onana makes 10 saves and there's 11 shots on target and there's only 1 goal? I'm not going with that route, though. I may like, Manchester City -2 corners in the first half a little bit, -115. I put together a lightly extravagant single game parlay for this one. So mine is Manchester City full game money line, first half money line, and over 2.5 goals at +130. I think they're gonna pour on the goals. I think we're gonna look at this Manchester United back line. We're gonna get Amrabat back there, and I know if they put almost their entire team behind the ball, maybe this doesn't matter to where Amrabat's on the wing. But at some point, there's going to be one-on-one duels of either Bernardo Silva or Phil Foden going against Amrabat, and I think Foden and Bernardo have the edge over Amrabat, and then we also have the center back questions. And then maybe even throw in like a Casemiro yellow card. You got to feel like that's kind of inevitable at this point. I just think that we're gonna get the goals. The people were talking about maybe when the Manchester City levy is gonna break open, and it broke open against Luton Town. So, and maybe a lot of the scoring struggles could be attributed to Kevin De Bruyne not playing in a few of those recent games. That Bournemouth game, the Brentford game. Came on, got the 4 assists against Luton Town. If he's going 90 minutes in the FA Cup against Luton Town, do you think he's going to start and be ready for close to 90 in the Manchester Derby? So I think with De Bruyne in there, I think that just changes things up. And I think Pep is kind of going to want to pour it on in this spot. Last time they played at the Etihad, actually the 2 last times they played at the Etihad in league play, Manchester City 6-3, Manchester City 4-1. So I think we're going to get 3+ goals out of Manchester City. I'm not sure if United are going to get one. Maybe, like I said earlier, Rashford will get one on a counter kind of thing. Maybe 3-1, 4-1. But I think we're going to get, just based off my bet here, I think we're going to get a few Manchester City goals. At least that's the hope.
I think that's fair. I mean, I'm a little weird. I'm weary of the over 2.5, just considering what we've seen in the last few games. But you mentioned.
Well, it's just like if City get a goal in the first half, which is already part of this bet, like United aren't going to continue to sit back, right? They got to open it up at some point. They can't just keep playing defensive and be like, okay, let's try and lose 1-0. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I can't. This is going to be. It might be comedy. Honestly, it might be fun to watch, and we might be seeing the slow demise of a certain manager at United. So this will be a good game to watch for sure, but probably not for the reasons like that we would typically think in terms of competitiveness. I think it's gonna be tough for United to take anything away from this.
Yeah, -370 for that Manchester City money line. So
yeah,
pretty heavy there. We got the team parlay coming up here. So it's been a couple weeks, but I know Chris hit his last team parlay. I think you took Arsenal -1.5, I want to say.
I've been a little hot on the team parlay lately, last like maybe two, three episodes, but can't rest on the laurels here. We got to get them good, keep it going.
Yeah, we got to keep it going. I did not hit on my last one. I think I had Tottenham money line. No, I had Newcastle money line home against Bournemouth, and that did not hit. You took Arsenal. I think it was -1.5 at Burnley.
Yeah,
That hit. And then prior to that, you took Tottenham money line, and then Manchester City something at Brentford. Maybe that was -1.5. So you're on a couple of money lines -1.5. So what do you got this week?
Yeah, this week I am. I do love a parlay money line bet just because it's fun. My theory always on that is take the home team, the home favorite. If you can get good odds, it's really hard to win away in the Premier League. I did steer clear of that this week, although I thought about it. There is some interesting money line, like home money line bets out there that you can consider. But actually went a different route here. I'd say the two most the teams that aren't named Liverpool that I love watching in the league are Luton Town and then Tottenham this season. Two of the most fun teams to watch, mostly because they play. It's just fun football. Like it's attacking. You're always going to see something interesting. I ended up going on this Tottenham Crystal Palace game. It's been interesting. I mean, obviously Roy Hodgson left Crystal Palace or was fired or however you want to call it, but they came out last weekend, got a little new manager bump. They beat Burnley 3-0. And I kind of expect them to play, definitely a different style than Roy Ball. And then on Tottenham on the other side, like we know how they're going to play all season: high line, big press, basically putting the other team under duress a lot in the same style of like how Liverpool does it. Win the ball up high, get it to your attackers as quick as possible, and get them in dangerous positions. I like this one, and this is my second over 3.5 bet of the week. So I'm a little bit weary of this, and I acknowledge that. But I like over 3.5 in this Crystal Palace Tottenham game. There's been a ton of goals in the Tottenham matches. There's no doubt about that. And then Palace, of course, more for them, it's been their issue is conceding. But like I mentioned, the previous time out, they beat Burnley 3-0. And so we'll see. But I love it. I love the over 3.5 bet here. I think we're getting good odds. It's +135. Maybe not the best odds on a 3.5, but we'll take it any way we can get it.
Yeah, it seems like Tottenham make at least one mistake defensively every game. Yep. And you didn't mention, so while Richarlison is out for Tottenham, we did get the news of Eberechi Eze has been training this week. There is a chance he comes in and starts. I'm not certain on how Glasner, takes injuries. There are managers who doesn't care about muscle injuries and throws a guy in and will risk it kind of a thing. And there are managers, I think, like the Klopps, maybe Peps, who are a little more safer than throwing in a guy off of a couple weeks from a muscle injury. So I don't think Eze is going to start, but you do have a guy like Eze coming off the bench, or if he starts, that is going to be obviously a massive boost to Crystal Palace. So yeah, we'll see. Usually I did a little bit of Eintracht Frankfurt research when Glasner was set to take over. They did have some high scoring matches. They were a higher scoring team with that 3-4-2-1 that they played, and they did have a lot of defensive lapses. So you throw in, they don't have Gahey, they have Joe Ward and Chris Richards, and I guess it just comes down to if this Tottenham team is going to get back to scoring more consistently than they have been recently, because they have been dropping points because their attack just hasn't been the same. And if Richarlison's out, is that going to change how they look? Maybe. But maybe your guy Timo Werner will give him a boost.
How is he my guy? When did Timo Werner become my guy? Like, what?
He just did.
Oh, okay, all right. You can't put that on me. That's not fair, Zach.
All right, my side of the bets. What do we got? I got Arsenal. I'm looking at this Arsenal game. I'm making everyone wait until Monday Night Football. We got Arsenal at Sheffield United. Arsenal, a little bit of a break. They don't have their Porto, the second leg of their Porto matchup until the following week. So they got this Monday night match, and Sheffield United are Sheffield United. They're not gonna. This is gonna be a 80% possession game, and I think it's just gonna be Arsenal in the attacking third for at least the first 45 minutes. Maybe they're gonna score some goals. Maybe they won't. But I got Arsenal minus 2.25 corners in the first half at minus 115. I think we're gonna get like, I don't know, 5 or 6 corners from Arsenal in the first half, and maybe one from Sheffield United. So I'll take this bet any day. I mean, I think the odds. I said this before, but a lot of these corner odds, they just, as we get closer to game time, like we're going to see, this is probably going to go to Arsenal minus 2.5, and then you're going to get like minus 150 on the odds. That's just something to, if you like this bet, you take it now instead of waiting until Monday night, because the odds will go towards Arsenal. They will go towards the favorite in this game. But so you put that together, the Arsenal corners minus 115 with Tottenham, Crystal Palace over 3.5 goals plus 135. We got plus 339 odds on the parlay. And what are we? We're there. We're down 1,000 right now. So we're
plus 339 though. Let's get going.
It's going to be a nice dent in that total there.
Yeah.
That's all we got, though. Here's the cheat sheet, rotowire.com/soccer trial, 48-hour trial. And I said this in my article, I think, but the implied total for a lot of these games is just like some of the highest numbers we've seen maybe ever in terms of just like a game week from in the Premier League. What is there now? There's 6 matches of at least 3.1 or 7 matches. Actually, 8 matches of at least 3.1 implied goal totals. And then the other 2 are 2.8 and 2.9. So basically, after the past month of the highest scoring month or whatever the stat is in the Premier League, the odds makers have been like, actually, we're just gonna boost the odds to the over on a lot of these. But anything else you're looking at, Liverpool are at Nottingham Forest, and I saw Nuno Espirito Santo's press conference. He mentioned that Divock Origi might be the secret key to unlocking their Liverpool problems. What do you say to that?
Good luck. I don't know. Yes. Yeah, this feels like a trap game, frankly. I think it's at Nottingham. It's at Nottingham. Yeah. I saw Paul Tierney is the head referee as well. I don't love that. Not a big Paul Tierney guy, no offense, but this just feels like one of those ugly games where it's like Liverpool gives up a goal, they're trying to fight back all game. I don't know. I'm a little bit weary of this one. No Mo Salah, it sounds like, as well.
No, he's out.
And they are, maybe, I think Soboslai and Darwin trained. I think I saw.
Yeah.
So that would be good. But I mean, there's just been such an emotional high on this team of like winning the League Cup in extra time on Sunday. Then they go back and they play the kids against Southampton on Wednesday. Pretty good performance, at least in the second half. Kids score, and so now it's like this feels like a natural kind of like emotional drop off. It's so hard to keep that level, for that long, and you can overlook a team like Nottingham Forest, But I don't know. I'm weary. I'm very weary of this matchup.
I'm not sure you convinced me yet. I bet Nottingham Forest against Manchester United on Wednesday, and they probably should have scored. I think they finished with like 16 shots. Probably should have scored in the first half. Ended up losing 1-0 home against Manchester United. So that's kind of fresh in my mind. But maybe I'll look at this again, and there will be some kind of overtaken because that's just Liverpool away from home, and that's Nottingham Forest. So
yeah, no, that's fair. The other thing, switch gears here, but we got I'll be in attendance for Seattle Sounders Austin FC on Saturday night. MLS is back, baby.
What do you think about your guy Pedro de la Vega?
He's got incredible hair. That hair is immaculate, like such good lettuce. So I'm all in on him. I actually have I don't know anything about him. I think he's Argentinian, but saw he's on PKs, came off the bench, hit a PK against LAFC. So I'm pro him, but this one might be kicking it back a little bit for some MLS people. But Sounders signed Ozzy Alonso. Yeah, to a 1-day contract so he can retire as Sounder. Sounds like he'll be in attendance on Saturday night. I like a big Sounders W against Austin on Saturday.
Yeah, I fired off some MLS bets last week. I can't remember exactly how it went, but one of those I actually had Austin money line at home, and they were the only home team to lose at home, or the only home team to actually lose last week. So I'm now going against Austin. Seattle is minus 200 here. Wow. So that just means we're looking at we got Sounders minus 1 corner in the first half is minus 130. Sounds good to me. So I'll put that just parlay, simple parlay, minus 130, get that first half corners and money line, something like that. And then we got plus money. We're good to go. Sounds like a great bet. Great win.
That's a betting machine right there for our audience that you just heard. Guy knows what he likes.
Yeah, I mean, you get Pedro de la Vega at home. Come on, like you can't. Is this the home opener? Were they home last?
Yeah, it is the home opener because that first week they were in LA.
You got the Alonso retirement. You got the home opener. You got I'm wearing Ballard FC, the new Seattle logo, even though we haven't updated it on the site yet. But this is like, I don't know. This is 3-0. This is 4-0. This is
it's all written all over it for sure.
I'm gonna, if I remember, I'm gonna put together a nice parlay here. It was 10:30 p.m. on Saturday. Okay, well, if I remember to do that, I'll try and post it on Twitter or something like that. But
nice.
Chris, enjoy that game, home opener. It's going to be a lot of fun there in Seattle. You can find him at CHROwen8 on Twitter. I am at RotoZdroik. Thank you for listening to the show. Let's win some bets. Make sure to give a thumbs up and like this video as well. Make sure to check out these cheat sheets. Of course, we also have, I always use the FPL, the Fantasy Premier League cheat sheet, but we do have an MLS fantasy cheat sheet, which has all of the MLS games on it, all 14 matches this weekend. As you can see here, Seattle are the biggest favorite, 1.89 implied goal total. So there we go. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll see everyone next week.
Thanks, Adam.